Hey everyone, we have two devices that we're going to fix today. We got a PS5 and we have a Nintendo Switch Lite. We'll start with the PS5 and we're going to go to the Switch Lite and we'll see what's going on with it. Now of course, any PS5 that comes into my shop, it's going to more than likely have an HDMI issue, and that's what we have with this one. So I'm going to pull the board out and then we're going to go to the microscope and we're going to chase that fix. Alright, and after about 5,000 screws later, we have the motherboard. Take a look at this HDMI port. It has like a chunk missing out of it, so let's go ahead and replace this port. First we kick on that fume extractor to save our lungs from dying. Then we apply that flux. You know flux helps that solder to flow. You already know. Now we put the hot air right under the port. We're going to go in this back and forth motion like this because what we want to do is evenly spread the heat to both of the anchor points and all 19 pins of the connector. And we can see that flux is working. There we go. The port just kind of sunk down. Grab it with our tweezers and pull straight up. Perfect. Okay, now that we have our port removed, we're going to take some solder wick and our soldering iron, and we're going to go ahead and suck up all this old solder that's on these 19 pads. Done. Take some alcohol and clean up this flux with a Q-tip. Now that we've done that, we're going to put this brand new flux down across these 19 pads. First, what I absolutely love to do, because we're going to technically hot swap this port, but we're going to do a couple things first. We're going to add some leaded solder here to mix with that lead-free. It's going to help the solder lower that melting temperature when we go ahead and apply a lot of heat to it. We don't have to apply near as much heat. As you can see, you see the solder, how it just kind of goes into the holes like that? Is exactly what you want to see. There it is. We could set that right down in there. That's it, my friends. Now, as an added protection, as the port is still hot, you can go ahead and continue to flow the port and just feed solder right here on the side of these anchors. I'm going to wait till it's hot enough to do that. There it is. It just, flowing some solder into the top of these posts really helps secure that port in. There we go. Now it's my absolute favorite part. Let's add some flux to these pins here. We're going to go ahead and solder these pins to their respective pads. These last three pins are always a headache with that little capacitor there. So we're going to do our best to not knock the capacitor, even though almost every time I do it, I end up knocking it and having to put it back. But we're going to just reach over on top of this capacitor and we're just going to try to solder these legs in. Okay, so we got them soldered and we got to get rid of that bridge there. Should be able to just move that bridge. Oh, of course we knocked the capacitor. Oh yeah, there we go. We'll just set that capacitor right over there. How about we just get rid of that bridge first? Now, because of my carelessness, we're going to have to go ahead and grab this capacitor again. We're going to have to put it in the general area here. We're going to have to hot air it back into place. And it should just, there we go, flow right back into place. Beautiful. Now we're done. All right, now that we're basically all set, we're just going to go ahead and clean up our area with some isopropyl alcohol. Now first, I'm going to use a toothbrush. Dollar store toothbrushes work super well with these high dollar repairs. And a Q-tip to pick up the rest of that flux residue. Okay, so I went ahead and flipped the board over to the back side of the HDMI connector. And because I'm a simp for good looking solder joints, I'm going to go ahead and touch these up with my iron. So I'm going to add some flux here to both sides. Grab my knife blade tip, come right up here and start flowing those joints. Look at that, man. Look at those joints just shine. All right, let's do the same for this side. Go ahead and add a little bit more solder. Go ahead and do it to both sides here. Look at that, man. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. All right, let's go ahead and clean up and we'll put it back together and test. Okay, let's try it now. We have image. Yes, we do. Connect controller using USB cable. Cool. It's working. Let's move on to the Nintendo Switch. So it turns out we actually have two Nintendo Switch lights, and both of them, when you plug them into the Nintendo Switch charger, they're charging, you probably can't see it, but they're charging at 5 volts and they don't charge in the other direction. Both of them do this. Now, the reason why they charge at 5 volts and don't charge in the other direction is because they both have faulty M92 chips. What's happening is the M92 actually handles the switching to 15 volts. The Nintendo Switch charger is a fast charger. It can switch between 5 volts and 15 volts. Let's get these down to the motherboards and let's chase the fix. All right, and we got the first switch down to the board. This is that M92 chip I was talking about. One thing we can do to actually test and confirm that this is bad, even though we already know it's the problem, is we can actually put our multimeter leads into beep mode or continuity mode or diode mode. They beep when you touch them. So what we're going to measure is a short circuit around the chip. We're going to put one of our probes on ground here, and we're going to check these points here. Right here, that's a very common point. That one, and then these are common points. It beeps, and that one is shorted. That line is shorted to ground, and it looks like the rest of our lines are not shorted. So in order to replace this, first we're going to apply some flux around the chip. Helps that solder to flow, you already know. Turn on that fume extractor to save our lungs from dying. Grab our hot air station. We're just going to flow this chip until the solder melts, and then we can just remove it from the board. Okay, this chip's about to come off. And there it is. Now, just from personal experience, I know that this is going to remove the short, so we're going to test continuity mode. This side is going to be ground, and this side is going to be our line. Let's see if our short is gone. We're looking for no beep. And of course, we don't have a beep because there is no short, because the short existed in this chip. Now let's replace the chip. So on these boards, you generally don't need to replace the solder. You can, but I mean, it's kind of a waste of time. Time is money in this business. We'll go ahead and just flow this chip right into place. Since the board is still kind of hot, it should be a pretty easy, quick, and simple process. We want the chip to kind of float on the solder, just like that. All right, our chip is installed. We're gonna get in here with some alcohol. Here's a toothbrush. All right, wipe down the board with a Q-tip. Okay, now let's put it back together and test the switch. All right, got the switch back together. Let's go ahead and test it out. Oh, it's literally turning on. And it's charging 15 volts, so it's working. I was gonna do this one for the video, but I think I'll save this for next week. Since it's 7 p.m., I gotta close and I gotta work tomorrow.
Hey, so it has been about maybe 5 or 6 days, almost a week, and I'm just waiting for the customer to come pick up this one. The same customer also dropped off this switch, and believe it or not, the same exact M92 problem. Could you believe it? So you guys can all imagine, I replaced the M92 in this one, I also did in this one too. And if you like this type of content, subscribe.